Hello, Rob. We're already live if you don't know. Hey, Rob, as soon as Ben jumps on here, I'm going to go 2 minute live so we can talk. Can you hear me, Rob? Can you hear me? I don't see your. You have no volume coming through, Rob, if you were speaking. Can you hear me? I can't hear you yet. Oh. There's Ben. Are you speaking, Ben? Because I can't hear you either.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
I can hear you. Cannot hear Rob though yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 2 minutes to live so we can go and get started. Hopefully Rob can get his microphone going.
I didn't have.
Good morning in circle of like, and we'll figure out which one of Rob's is not available, and then we'll get started here.
Rob had 2 or 3 streams up. He just wanted everybody to see him extra.
Yeah, I wanted my opinion to count twice, I guess. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tonight or today, I guess, you guys are in Ohio and it's what, 9:15 in your guys' area, and I'm in Oakdale, California, and it's 6:15 here, so it's a little early. But I just wanted to welcome you guys tonight. Today's discussion is going to be a little different than what we originally planned based off the events of yesterday, with Charlie Kirk passing away. And it was interesting because I talked to Ashley last night and said I wanted to put what I wanted to title this message was already something that, would have fit with what happened yesterday. And that is that there's an evil spirit roaming the earth that is absolutely 100% doing what it does: steal, kill, and destroy. And Charlie Kirk was one of these guys that was very outspoken, did not worry about didn't worry about some of this stuff, right? He just preached the gospel and shared with people and had a discussion, much like we want to do here. I don't want to give the enemy any leeway here, because I've seen it. Well, quite frankly, there was already a gentleman that was fired from MSBC over his commentary over the Charlie Kirk being shot. Their coverage has been a little bit despicable. The House, our Congress, Democrats rejected prayer and objected prayer during session for Charlie Kirk and his family. That's despicable. I don't care if you. I can't even imagine that we live in a society that is so opposed to whatever you don't want, you can't even observe. Because that's what it is. At the end of the day, it is, if my beliefs don't match yours, I have this not only ability, but I have this wherewithal within inside of me that says, well, I can object to the simplest thing, whether you believe in a creator or not. Prayer was something that some people in Congress wanted to do, and they objected. And they say that, unfortunately, they say that the Republican Party, let's be honest, says we're the violent ones. They're not looking in the mirror. They're not looking in the mirror. And I'm not going to make this discussion today about political, situations, but there's an evil in the spirit, evil in this earth today, gentlemen, that breaks my heart, because there's being people disillusioned every day. The outcry on social media about he got what he deserved. I've seen that. That's pure evil. And our discussion was supposed to be what? About Lot and Noah and the evil and the sexual immorality and the violence and the things that were going on during that time that God decided to destroy a city, destroy the earth. Your thoughts?
Do you want to go first, Rob, or do you need me
to? You can go first.
Okay. So, I mean, we are living in difficult times, and we learn from the Bible that difficult times cause, judgment. The Bible lesson we are going to have today, what we studied on, was Sodom and Gomorrah. And when you start really reading about that, you find a lot of, like you said, similarities, whether it was Noah or whether it was the events with Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, where we were studying, before this thing happened. And it's the fact that when you have extreme wickedness in a nation, it gets judged. And we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant as those that are believers to understand that, wickedness doesn't stand. Eventually, it gets punished. Sometimes it's through divine measure. Other times it's through what I would almost say practical means. You have situations, communists and Nazis and all these other things, even modern history, they end up getting judged. Even sometimes the wicked judge the other wicked. And we have to be vigilant and understand that, when these bad things happen, we have to be vigilant, because we can end up getting swept up in it as well. Noah's family survived the flood. They were the only ones that did. Lot's family, some of them, Lot's wife died because of what happened. Even though the righteous got, we have to be willing to understand that what happened with Charlie. That's just a process. You look at even the history of Christianity. stand up against either religious or political leaders for their faith. I mean, he was crucified by a religious government and a secular government that said you're not allowed to, and literally Jesus died because you're not allowed to say these things. He was murdered because he was claiming the Son of God. He was murdered because he was speaking out against the authority, and they didn't want him to be free to do so. So, that is what we have to deal with as Christians, I think.
Okay, Ben, you're breaking up a little bit. I'm still a little shocked. And not your speech, but your video and everything. Rob?
Yeah. So some of the things that, and it might be kind of a unique take on this situation, but what I'm hoping is that Christians are not silenced because of fear. I'm hoping that we continue to speak the truth in love and that sort of thing. And I've had discussions with those close to me, let's just say it that way, about him as a person. So some of the people in my life didn't particularly care for him, to be completely honest. But I think what we have happening in general in society is an extreme kind of nitpicking of what people said. He 95% of the time said the exact right thing, handled the situations exactly right. But there's 5% of the time where, for instance, the one time he identified a dolphin fetus as a human fetus. A lot of people, I guess I would say more of a liberal persuasion, really jumped on that, made that a big deal, discredited everything he was saying based on one thing that he did wrong. And I'm just thinking, how many times when I'm preaching, how many times when we're having these discussions or I'm doing the Bible study that I may mispronounce a word or I may, do something like that. The left specifically is looking for every opportunity to critique the message of the cross, to critique the message that Jesus came to protect, to critique the message that there's a God who will ultimately judge you. So we don't need to be fearful, because it's not our strength and our work and our perfection that this message is going to go forth, but it's God's power and by the power of the Holy Spirit. So I think that we all do not be discouraged and we need to continue to speak the truth in love, like I said. And we're supposed to be able to give a reason for the hope that is within us, but that is not always a perfect hope, a perfect message. It is a perfect hope, but it's not a perfect message coming from us. That's valid.
And what I wanted to do today was, when we look at the story of Lot, when we look at that and the political violence and the things that were going on in there, one of the things that I really wanted to come out of that, Rob, to go along exactly with what you're saying, that goes along with this, right, is the fact that God went to Lot how many times? I think it was 6 times, 6 or 7 times, right? And said, can you find me 50 people, 40 people? And went on down the line, right? And they could not find any person that was righteous, that was not corrupt in the sexual perversion, the rape, the murder, the violence, the whole situation that was going on in the city, right? And if we look at it in that manner, Charlie was one of these guys that I liked what he did a lot of times and what he said. You're right. The 5% of the times, or, some of these things, nobody's perfect. Doesn't matter what side of the political aisle, what doesn't matter if you're a preacher, you're a teacher, you're just a human being, you're never going to be perfect. You're not going to be that manner. You're going to do things, say things be caught up in an emotional state that's not going to be what you want it to be, right? And it's going to cause you to do these things. But when you look at it, Lot's family in Genesis 19:9 was being threatened with violence in that time. There was, and I heard an argument preparing for this about homosexuality and the word that they used in there that said, well, it wasn't till I'm gonna probably miscommunicate this, but it was later, like 14th century, and in translation into English, that it was, well, that word really wasn't homosexuality. Well, I beg to differ, because he says directly that the men were sleeping with the men. What is that? That is homosexuality. That is not what God created in his own image. He created man and female in his own image. The enemy wants to pervert this to a manner that says the identity is not your identity, is in Christ. So this battle has raged. Our flesh, as we've talked so many times before, our flesh came out of the womb having desires, wanting to be, not wanting to deny itself, right? It wants pleasure. It wants everything that it wants. It wants the sin. That's why sin feels so good. That's why all of these things are. If we don't get our way as a toddler, what do? Kick and scream, and we fight, and we do all of these things, right? What do we do as an adult? We form it differently, but we kick and scream, and we fight, and we do this, and we have violence, and until we get our way. A narcissistic person manipulates the situation until what? They get their way. There's no difference. And until we subject ourselves to a discipline, we're just going to kick and scream and do this. And that's one thing that I truly believe, that that Jesus didn't come to condemn Sodom and Gomorrah, the city. He did not come to destroy it. He didn't come to destroy us. He come to set us free from that oppression, that thought pattern, that thinking that we have. And the evil in this world right now that we see isn't looking at it, can't get away from it long enough, won't listen to reason. But there's a group of people right now. There's a group of people, gentlemen, and I hope you agree, that are wanting to be set free from the turmoil in their mind. I'm not a violent person, but I have violent thoughts. I have homosexual thoughts, but I don't want to be disrespectful for God. I want to be a better person, but I am not. I want to do these things, but I'm not, right? There's people out there right now today that are so far out there that only person can get them is Jesus Christ. But there's another group of people that are just searching for some relief in something. And that's really what I think this discussion was supposed to be about, was the fact that if you have violent thoughts, if you have these misgender identity thoughts, all of these things, it's because the enemy wants to derail you from ever becoming a Christ follower, period.
Right. Yeah. And the way I always look at it is, if you look at really what sin is, it's always a question or always a challenge of, where your focus is the focus on what you want, what you can have for yourself, what pleasure you can get in life, whatever thing that you can have for yourself, or is it on restraining those things, focusing on Jesus, focusing on others, focusing on the cross? And what we have in society is a situation where society wants to say you are perfect just the way you are. You can't do any wrong. There's nothing, there isn't bad anymore. And that doesn't work. And like you said earlier, you know, about likening some things to having a child, all three of us have kids, have had kids growing up. And, the thing is, being a good parent involves discipline, it involves judgment, it involves punishment sometimes, because you know that if you don't train your child to do the right things, they will make catastrophically bad decisions. If I let Arabria do whatever she wanted to, she would eat candy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day without end. And as an adult, you laughed. It's ludicrous, but to her, it's rational. So
Right.
when you look at the sins in society right now, and they say, well, this is fine, this is fine. The Bible really didn't mean all these different things. And I think, no, that is absolutely not true. There that we're supposed to walk on. And the thing that the world needs to hear is that path is to pick up your cross every single day and follow Jesus Christ. It is hard, it is difficult, but it is necessary. And until we can make that, even for Christians ourselves, we have things in our own life, like you said, violent thoughts. We have to restrain those things. Just because someone outside the faith has a certain issue doesn't mean that we don't deal with those same things as Christians. If you're married, you can struggle with lust still, you can struggle with adultery or whatever as a Christian, and we have to avoid those things. But the world wants to say, no, you're fine just the way you are. It's okay to be adulterous, it's okay to get divorces, it's okay to do all these different things. You're fine just the way you are. And really, when it comes down to it, that's a spirit of Antichrist, thinking that you are the supreme authority in law when you're not.
Rob?
Yeah, I mean, when he was given his example about Arbriah, eating candy, I mean, I know that, you know, of my three girls, one of them has a little bit less impulse control than another. So I won't call them out, but they would eat an entire bag of candy, and it would be like, they were a little bit older, and we're like, "You're going to get sick." Well, they'd eat the entire bag of candy, and they would get sick. But given the chance again, they would eat the entire bag of candy.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
because that's what they do. But you know, just like a good father wouldn't allow that to happen, because a good father could see that if Arabria ate candy 3 meals a day, that in 3 years she's not getting proper nutrition, that she's gaining weight, doesn't have the proper nutrients, that her bones aren't growing, that her body's not growing, that she's not a healthy person. And I kind of think like we're at a place right now, maybe in America, where we need spiritual fathers who are looking at people in love and are saying, I see 2, 3, 4 years down the road what this lifestyle is going to do for you. And I'm going to love you, and I'm going to tell you the truth. And you may not like me for it in the moment, but hopefully we can keep an open discussion, and I can help spiritually parent or mentor you toward what can really set you free.
100%. I mean, I think, in goodness gracious, when you say spiritual parent someone, I can hear certain individuals in my life. I don't need parenting. I don't need any of this. I don't need any mentors. I'm good. Like you go back to say, Bri, Ben, right? I don't need any of this. I'm who do you just say that you're judging, right? Because there's an influence or an insinuation that says, we're judging some of these situations, right? Just as they're judging everything that we're saying right now, right? There's be people out there that would judge what we're saying in this. Jesus, I just feel very, very strongly today and every day, really. Jesus wants to do this stuff out of love. He does not want anyone to fall into the trap of sin. He doesn't. And he wants out of love. You know, when he went to Noah, there's 120 years that he was building the ark. Now, we can't fathom that, right? Because we can't imagine being healthy enough at that age to be trying to even remotely. We can't build a building in 5 years or a school in 3 years with our industrial equipment today. And good for, trying to build an ark today would be simple. In reality, it would be simple today to build an ark, but back then it would be a 120-year process.
Well, even if
Not a real.
have you ever been to the Creation Museum, Terry?
I have.
How many years with modern technology did it take them to build that one? Every time I go, I keep thinking that.
Yeah, I don't know how many years it took, but to find trees that big for those, that many logs, to hew them down and to do all of these things. The biggest thing is God has a pattern, and you guys might actually be able to refer some of this better than I am, but God has a pattern. He allows tragedy, bad things to happen to us, to redirect us sometimes, to help us. He gives us warnings. He teaches us these things that says, hey, man, I know in my own life was mixed up. I was not doing right. He allowed some tragedy in my life, things in my life that ultimately helped me become the man that I am today. And I wouldn't have done that if he didn't do that. I wouldn't be here today. Excuse me. I wouldn't be here today if that's what he didn't do. And he allows these things to happen to redirect our path. And there's some lost people out there right now. There's people grieving right now. This family is grieving. I don't matter if you're left, right, red, pink, blue, green, whatever, you are. There's a family. There's 2 little kids that lost their family. There's 5 people every weekend in our big cities that lose a life, that lose family members. God doesn't want that. He didn't want to destroy these places. He wants to redirect them to a better place. And we can't yell at people. We have to do it out of love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I was kind of thinking about here is the word refining. When we talk about the Lord allowing us to go through things, and I was thinking about, I was trying to look up, verses in the Bible that talk about refining, and Malachi 3 comes to example. Malachi 3 says, "Who can endure the day of his coming, and who can stand when he appears? He's like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi and refine them like gold and silver." And the thing is, I was just wanting to look up real quick. What does it mean? It's a refiner's fire and fuller's soap. And I thought that's kind of like an interesting word, fuller's soap. And if you look up the root word of fuller's soap, it is a verb that means not only to wash, but to trample. That there's the process of laundering that requires beating and to extract. And the thing about that is there's a lot of other places in the Bible that use the word refine or refining. So that process of refining is not only fire, it's laundering, it's trampling, it's a lot of difficult things. And, again, keep circling back. The world doesn't want difficulty. The world wants only the good things. How dare, you say that whatever you're going through isn't right and perfectly normal, when the word is saying that we do need to carry our cross. We do need to be refined, even to get refined in this life through the message and cross of Jesus Christ. The kind of It won't really be refining after this, of course. I don't want to, say something wrong, but the fire, you either get the fire now or the fire later. And the fire now is a
Yeah.
lot easier. And even when we wanted to start off talking about Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, and you go to Matthew chapter 10, I think, when when Jesus himself talks about Sodom and Gomorrah, and he tells the people he tells the disciples, go to these towns, preach the gospel. If they'll accept you, then good. But if they don't accept you, it's going to be worse for that town, those people, in the judgment than it was for Sodom and Gomorrah. And I read that and thought, man, even in the punishment that is there for the city that Lot dwelled in, Jesus still says that kind of punishment is more tolerable and gracious than what will come when you not only reject the messenger, you reject the message. And we have to be very careful. We have to be careful, but the world needs to be even more careful. And that's why the message has to be preached, and we have to be vigilant, and we have to um, be willing to die to ourselves. And in the case of like Charlie, die physically in violence for the message. And that's just something that we may be going into a dark time, that vigilance is going to cost a whole lot more on September 11th, 2025 than it did 3 days ago, I guess.
Rob, you have something to add there?
It's kind of going a different direction with it, but I know that I don't know how many people are going to watch this. I may throw it through Opus Pro or something, and there might be more people than usual, possibly. But the 20 or 30 or 40, 50 people that are going to watch this, I hope that level heads, on our side too, right? I
Oh
hope
yeah,
that
yeah,
I,
absolutely.
yeah, I hope that we realize that, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this age. And I hope that it's more, I want to take action. I want to take action with my speech and stuff, but a lot of this is about prayer. A lot of this is about, battling the darkness in a spiritual context. And, I hope that we don't go out just thinking that every person we meet on the street is someone to argue with or physically, confront just because they have different views than we do.
I mean, that's a great point. And our flesh. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you just said it. My flesh is like, yeah, it is very much that way. It's like, guys, come on, yeah. But I think that it always goes back to what you just said. It goes back to during Jesus when he was in front of Pilate, he could have struck down those priests, right? He could have done any of that he wanted to do. The Roman guards that beat him, he could have destroyed them. He could have wiped out that entire side of the planet if he wanted, and he didn't, right? Because of the greater good. But I also think that the enemy truly wants us to cowardly not speak out, cowardly to shut down and not be vigilant and not be, even more not combative, because that's not what I think we should do. I'm with you 100%. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we need to speak louder about Jesus's love, about the process, about, you know, I've been in a unique situation being a youth pastor and understanding and seeing and dealing with multiple kids that had a real identity crisis, had a real identity issue of that battled with homosexuality, battled with just really, really bad things when it came to that side. And just telling them that they're going to hell and they're going to die and all of that was the worst thing you could do, right? That never worked. I have this very hard exterior, especially then 10 years ago. I was really, really harsh and really hard, but I fell in love with these kids because they were going through an identity crisis, and everybody that the church was just saying, well, you guys are wrong and you're going to hell.
Mm.
And that was not what they needed to hear. That was not how they needed to be handled. That wasn't the way the Bible actually tells us to handle it. Like anytime Jesus went through sin and confronted people, he always spoke about the love, right? Now, he spoke against it. Don't get me wrong, but he didn't just immediately go, well, you're going to hell and you're not. No, he didn't do that, right? He came to it as love. And we've watched kids get set free from this. I mean, all of these, I mean, we're going through an identity crisis in America right now, right? We got this, it used to be everybody would have a sit down conversation. We don't do that. Now it's just one side wants to yell at everybody and say the other side's violent.
Mhm.
And it just, nobody wants to have an open discussion. I've sat with people. I've sat with a Muslim, a Jewish individual, a Catholic, a Christian, a atheist, all around the table at dinner. And we set ground rules like we're not going to yell at each other and we're going to have a discussion, but we did it and we were all much better for it at the end of it,
Mhm.
right? We all agreed that our faith was super important to us. Even the atheist said that. That was the craziest thing, right? The atheist is like, I do believe in faith. I don't believe in Jesus, but I have faith in the world and in these situations. And it was so fascinating to me because everybody had this, they had deep down had a faith based thing they were searching for, looking for, and we all could agree on that. How we got there was different. And we weren't, sitting across from a Muslim, and you think about this, and this would be if you put this through Opus, it would come through, I guarantee you, right? But you sit across from a Muslim, and Christians, it's been preached. Well, we're worried that we're going to die, right? They just want to kill us. Well, that's not what it is. They do not. There isn't a group of them that do, that distinctly say that we're infidels and that we need to die as Christians, but not all of them.
Mhm.
But not all of them. You know, there's a radical individuals at every level, at every different demographic, and every religion, creed, any of it, right? And so I don't know, guys. I'm at a loss. I'm just at a loss.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's a matter of being vigilant, being willing to speak out for the truth no matter what it costs, and understand that there, like you said, there are people out there searching. They're searching for the truth. And if we believe we have the truth, and I know all three of us know that we have the truth in Jesus Christ, then we have to be fearless about that. I like the part about we need to preach the truth in love. When Jesus was speaking to people that had sin in their life, whether it was the woman at the well or the woman that was the woman that was caught in the act of adultery, he didn't hate those women. He didn't throw stones at them, literally. He did the opposite. He loved them, but he didn't mess with them, and he had a discussion with them about their sin. Did that. And when he had an honest discussion with the sin of the Pharisees, they the woman with the adultery and the woman that was living with a man that wasn't her husband had way more ability to accept the truth that Jesus gave them than the religious pharisaical leaders did. And that's kind of the society we're living in, where we may get a better reception from people that are truly searching for the truth than the ones that think they have the truth and really don't have it in the end. But we have to be vigilant to preach the truth in love to those around us, and allow the Lord to work in those people's hearts, and give the results, and of course the glory to God and all those things.
You have any more thoughts, Rob?
I mean, I would just say, yeah, we've got to be careful to just not, as you guys were kind of saying, not to kind of personify everybody as evil that disagrees with us. There's my employee right now, because I technically only have one. He's more of a liberal persuasion, and sometimes we'll get in discussions, but at the end of the day, I'm still respectful and he's still respectful, and I still thank him for what he's doing, and I listen to his point of view. I don't attack, um, and that sort of thing. And I think that's what we've got to do. Just keep in mind that they are people created in God's image. Just because you disagree with me, you're still valuable to God, and I should, not that everyone will be saved, but I should look at almost everybody as pre-Christian. That's the potential that I should look at them with. They're pre-Christian, and that's how I think God looks at them, because I believe the offers to everyone. So, I mean, I think that's kind of how we handle those that we disagree with.
Well, you said it there. You said it there. Does every Christian, does every person look at every Christian ought to look at every person that walks through the door or they meet at the street as a soul, as a soul, right? That this waging of war is for the soul. That at the end of the day, right? It's a soul,
Mm-hmm.
And the enemy wants to silence that preaching, that teaching, that love. 100%. He wants to silence it. I don't know exactly how many times he says it in the Bible, but it absolutely says it more than twice. That's what he came to do. That's what he wants to do. And we need to look at everybody as what you said, pre-Christian or their soul, right? Because we say it as not a running joke, but sometimes you'll say it. I've say it. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, right? Anything. Well, I wouldn't wish what Charlie Kirk's family is going through on my worst enemy, and I mean that, right? I wouldn't mean that, and if we are walking around wishing that on our enemies, you probably want to look at yourself and go, am I really in a good spot? Am I really thinking about humanity? Am I really thinking about human life, or am I just radicalizing myself into thinking that you don't think like I do and you deserve to die?
Yeah.
Probably not allowed to say that, but the fact is that's really what it is about.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, thank you, gentlemen. I know that we'll probably have another discussion next week. It will be on Wednesday night. Um, I don't know where that discussion is going to lead, but let us three still stay diligently preaching the gospel, speaking the truth, loving people, loving the unlovable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you guys will do that.
Yep. Take care.
Take care.